Now, on the 24th of March this year, NIO gave us their Q4 of 2021 earnings results. And of course, we saw that NIO managed to beat analyst expectation and report total revenues of over $1.55 billion. But with the earnings per share, we saw them missing analyst expectations as they report an EPS or an earnings per share of $1.05, which the market did not like. Now, one of the things that, of course, they had given us on those earnings was the Q1 guidance. You remember that NIO came out and said that for the Q1 of 2022, they expect to deliver between 25,000 and 26,000 vehicles, of which you already know that for the Q1 of 2022, they delivered total vehicles of over 25,700. We saw them delivering over 25,700 vehicles for their Q1 of 2022, which is something that is incredible, because then that means that they delivered as expected, which is something that, of course, it must just show you that though to some of the retail investors, of course, the guidance was not that good. Personally, to me, I still think that it was not that bad. I mean, for the fact that NIO managed to deliver over 25,700 vehicles, which was a 8.5% increase year over year, is something that is really commendable and must just show you that one way or the other, the deliveries in NIO are growing. Though, of course, maybe some of the retail investors were expecting it to deliver probably more, but due to the, of course, supply chain constraints, due to the current production capacity that NIO is currently having or sitting with at their current NIO factory, we all know that they are not able to deliver as much. And of course, you know that another thing that, of course, I personally think that, of course, it had some impact on those delivery numbers are, of course, the preparations of the ET7, because you remember that 28th of March, we saw NIO starting with the deliveries of their first sedan called the ET7. So getting to see them, of course, coming out with those kind of deliveries of over 25,700, I think it was not a train smash. Now, on the 9th of June, NIO came out today and told us that they will be, of course, releasing the earnings results of the Q1 of 2022, which, of course, they will be released before the New York stock market opens, which is something that, of course, we are really patiently looking forward to, especially as the NIO retail investors. And one of the things that, of course, I will be looking forward to is to get to see the guidance for their Q2 of 2022, because you remember that in the Q2, April and probably May, the deliveries have been seriously been impacted by the supply chain constraints. The deliveries have been impacted by the COVID outbreaks in China, which of course resulted in supply chain constraints, which then resulted in companies like NIO having to suspend their production for a couple of days, which is something that, of course, had a huge impact in the deliveries in April, and probably now the deliveries of May, which we are going to get to see them probably next week. I mean, personally, I've also came to think that NIO, even for the month of May, they might not get to 10,000 vehicles because of the fact that the supply constraints are still there, though they are getting better and better and better, but they are still there. And I personally believe that they are going to still be impacted due to these supply chains, which is something that I would like to really see, or my main focus is to see the June deliveries, because I think the supply constraints by that time, they will be much better comparing to the current supply chains issues. And of course, you remember that NIO, getting to know that, of course, you remember that they had came out and said that by the end of the first half, they would have upgraded their NIO factory to a production capacity of over 300,000 with double shifts. It is something that, of course, I would want to see if whether that will show on the results that they will give to us around June. So these are some of the things that, of course, I will be looking forward to, because this is a company that, of course, I'm really, really, really eyeing. And like I said, one of the things, I just want to see the guidance of what their guidance or their Q2 guidance will be. But as many analysts have been saying, NIO in the first half of 2022, there was just challenges around not only NIO but the entire auto or mega industry, which is something that it must be well noted, especially in China, that of course in terms of deliveries and earnings, we might get to see this industry, or this EV industry to be specific, not producing the kind of earnings that retail investors want to see. But of course in the second half, we've been seeing so many analysts coming out and say that they believe that a company like NIO will do very well in the second half of this year. Because what's happening in the second half, you remember that in the second half of this year, number one, NIO is expected to, of course, start with the production at their new NIO Park factory, which, by the way, its production capacity, it's over 1 million vehicles annually, which is something that getting to know that that plant or that factory will be starting with the production around September is something that is incredible. Now, you remember that also one of the things that makes, of course, these analysts to be really positive about the second half of this year when looking at this NIO stock, it's for a fact that you remember that NIO is set to start with the deliveries of the ET5. And of course, you remember that the ET5 is the mid sedan which NIO, of course, anticipates or is planning and also in schedule to start with the deliveries around September of 2022. And you remember that with the ET5, its pre-orders have surpassed all of their previous models, which is something that, of course, it is one of the main things that is making analysts to really be excited about the second half of this year. Another main reason why I personally believe that analysts are really excited and looking forward to the second half of this year is for a fact that NIO will be starting to sell their vehicles in 4 new European countries. And of course, those European countries, it looks like most of them, they will be starting with the ET7, which is something that is incredible, because you remember that the ET7 is one of the vehicles which is just said to do very well in terms of sales. It's a vehicle, or it's one of the NIO vehicles which is not only liked in China, but it is a vehicle that is liked also outside of China, which is one of the things that I personally believe that it makes analysts to be really confident about NIO going to the second half of this year. So yes, the Q1 and probably the Q2 of 2022 earnings of NIO might not be that good, but looking at the second half, that is the Q3 and the Q4, I think you need to just fasten your seatbelt and brace yourself, because when we get to see NIO, or when NIO gets to report those earnings, I definitely think that you will be excited and not regret why you put your money into this company, because this is a company which is just set to do very well. Otherwise, with all that, guys, I just thought I should just give you some of the things that I'll be looking forward to on the upcoming earnings. And of course, that is the guidance, because in terms of the deliveries, I don't think the revenue will be much different, though it will be higher than the $1.55 billion dollars revenue they reported for their Q4 of 2021, but it won't be by much, because the difference in the vehicles, it's around 700, which personally I still think that, yeah, it might be around 1.6 billion. That's my estimate. I personally believe that NIO can be able to generate around 1.6 billion, looking or projecting it from the Q4 of 2021 earnings. I personally believe that. So I am patiently waiting to see the kind of earnings that NIO will report, and of course wanting to see, of course, also the guidance that will sort of like give us what kind of deliveries we can expect NIO to deliver in the month of June. Otherwise, with all that, guys, I make tons and tons of stock market investing videos, and that if you think that this video was amazing, please don't forget to hit that like button, comment, and subscribe. And once you subscribe, don't forget to hit that notification bell so that YouTube can notify you every time I release a video. Otherwise, that's all from me, and I wish you nothing but the best in your stock market and investing journey. And God bless you all.